of transcendental argumentation, necessity of this argument. There are 5 points that we need to look at. Let's listen carefully. What does that mean? Number 1, transcendental argumentation supplies a level of certainty that non-transcendental argumentation cannot supply. Yes, as we have seen throughout this course, non-presuppositional models of apologetics. That is, what is that? Oh, look at the evidence. Evidence will prove the existence of God, right? Look at the cosmological argument, teleological arguments, and then you prove to the idea that there is God, right? So that is what this non-presuppositional argument. We don't, we don't think that is a right kind of argument. We believe in presuppositional apologetics. So throughout this course, non-presuppositional models of apologetics can merely provide a high probability of the existence of a Christian God. Yes, through a cosmological argument or a teleological argument, the argument of a designer, design and a designer. What it can provide? It can only provide a probability. Yes, so if there is a design, that design indicates a designer. So the world has got a design that indicates a designer behind the design, and God is a design. So the question is, again, we go, okay, we say, okay, there is a designer. Now the question is, who is this designer? No arguments can now prove who is this designer. I always say, is it Allah, that designer? Or Ram is that designer? Or who else you wanted to bring it? So that is the problem with this argument. So it only supplies probability by means of direct inductive inference and deductive correlation. But they can never provide the certainty supplied by indirect transcendental model. In short, transcendental argumentation alone supplies the warranty necessary for faith. Yes, we believe, right? We believe in God, right? We believe that is when the moment you say you believe in God, that presupposes something, right? Something will as we go further, we'll look into that. So yes, transcendental argument supplies level of certainty. Second, transcendental argumentation supplies a level of specificity that non-transcendental argumentation cannot supply. As we have seen above, non-transcendental models infer, right? Look at that word, infer a form of theism. And then, right, so that means design is there, design deduces into a designer. So yes, that designer, so we say, we infer that that designer is God, right? So infer a form of theism and then pick from its various options a specific form of theism that is more likely than the rest, right? So you say, okay, so now we say, okay, we have a theism. Means, yes, a designer is God. Now you need to pick who is that designer. You need to pick and choose who is that designer. So that was the problem with the non-transcendental models. Whereas transcendental argumentation assumes a specific form of theism. That is Christian theism. And then systematically eliminates all other comers. So what transcendental argumentation does, it says only truly Christian God is there. There's nobody else. That is what this argumentation actually leaves. Now, but that is, we need to look at. And this is not to say transcendental argument cannot be mustered for other gods. For example, Allah, or for no God at all. Michel Martin's Tang, no God at all. But this does not mean that all of these arguments are equal alternatives. What transcendental argumentation tells that in the transcendental argument, not, of course, it can refer to other gods, but it's not equal. There is only one that is supreme in this argument, and that is the God of the Bible. So the goal of the apologist at this point is to demonstrate that these other transcendental arguments truly cannot lend holistic intelligibility and meaning immediately and simultaneously. So what transcendental argument does is that, yes, it allows for other gods, but then the second argument destroys intelligibility and meaning. When it comes to that place, transcendental arguments destroys all other arguments or other choices of God. Butler argues that making logic contingent upon God renders the laws of logic non-necessary. Right? So this is what Butler's argument. And making morality contingent upon God renders morality capricious. And that allowing the possibility of miracles unearths uniformitarianism of laws destroying science. So that's how Butler argued. Yes, if you make the logic contingent upon making logic contingent upon God, yes, renders the laws of logic non-necessary. So if you argue everything upon God, then Butler says it has no value. Now, John Frame responds by pointing out that, yes, morality and logic are necessary, just not above God. Since he is their author, and that science represents the providential aspect of his plan, but his plan can exceed that of providence in form of miraculous day of the Lord. So what Frame said, no, it makes it necessary. What morality and logic are necessary. They're not above God. God is the author of logic and morality. That means all what you see, this world, is God's outward, right? So what was John Frame said, morality and logic has no meaning apart from God. So that was the argument. Okay, why, again, the necessity of transcendental argument is the third point. Transcendental argument supplies a philosophical self-consistency that is lacking in all other apologetic models. What is that? Since the inferences and deductions of non-transcendental models can logically provide nothing greater than probability or high probability, their objective models rely upon an uncharacteristically and inexplicably subjective indutional leap of faith. Yeah? What it requires? The non-transcendental model again requires a faith to believe their argument. Transcendental argument argues instead from objective revelation, both public and private. to the intelligibility of whole creation. Again, let me say, let me bring that example again. Teleological argument, the argument of designer and design. Now, this non-transcendental argument says, if you look at a design, you know that there is a designer. And the world is a design. And therefore, there is a big designer. Now, the question is, who is the designer? Who is the designer? So, if you wanted to believe that Jesus is the designer, there requires a leap of faith. You have to believe it is not Allah, but Jesus is the designer. So that requires a faith. Fourth necessity of transcendental argument. Transcendental argumentation simultaneously recognizes the objectivity of all truth, yet also subjectivity necessary to persuasiveness. So now you may know, or what is objectivity? What is subjectivity? So those are terms you have to learn clearly, because objective, we say something objective, right? Objective truth or objectivity of all truth, is factual, right? And subjectivity is much more experiential. So that's how people explain these two terms. Now, let's look at, unlike some strict proclamation models, which suggest that the gulf between Christian and non-Christian worldviews is such that there is no point of contact save illuminating work of the Holy Spirit. Which is true. Hyperpotentially and especially orthodoxy. And models that argue from a denial of the univocal correspondence theory of truth to a denial of any correspondence in theories of truth. Transcendental argumentation argues clearly the suitability of a single expression of objective truth, that is, analogs to God for all persons in the image of God. Yes, that is what transcendental argument actually says, right? Yes, it is the faith in the objectivity, objective truth. What is that? The Bible itself. You believe Bible is true, and Bible says what? All persons are created in the image of God, right? But further and more significantly, transcendental argumentation explains why people do not, in fact, cannot accept the objectivity of that truth. It is only this argument says why people cannot accept this truth, that Bible is God's revelation, and in Bible it describes that we are created in God's image. It's only in this transcendental argumentation actually explained, right? It is simply because we are depraved. As we noted above, one of the best arguments for transcendental argumentation is that it can explain simultaneously not only logic, yes, maths, science, logic. It can not only explain logic or morality or natural science. Yes, it can explain all of them. But not only that, it also can explain illogic, immorality, and supernatural too. Yes, all other systems are not able to explain the contrary of this objective truth, all right, or the contrary nature of the truths, right? For example, people can be illogical, right? Yes, it is fact. People are illogical. People can be immoral. It is a fact. People can, and there can be supernatural events that science cannot explain. Natural science are unable to explain. Yeah. So it's only transcendental arguments can explain this. Transcendental argumentation alone provides an adequate explanation of text, such as Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7. What is that? Which clearly describes the fear of God as the precondition of knowledge. It is transcendental argumentation only alone explains. Everything begins with the faith in God. The knowledge begins by the fear of God. The capstone argumentation for transcendental argumentation is, listen carefully, friends. At least if you get it, then you know what it is. Its ability to account convincingly for the fact of and solution to human depravity. The only argument that clearly accommodates human depravity and its solution is this argument. All other arguments, especially the evidentialism and the fideism, can be easily gone wrong, or it becomes wrong because it is unable to accommodate human depravity. All other arguments believe that our mind, are supreme, that we can make independent choices and come to the right conclusion without anyone's aid or help. That is what all other arguments says. Whereas transcendental argumentation clearly says human beings are depraved and cannot think independently because it always goes to the one side and rejects God. And therefore, it requires a divine work, a miraculous work, that God touches the hearts of the people, changes them, and then things get to go to the right side. So it alone rejects the autonomy of human reason. Yes? Rejects the autonomy of human reason, the autonomy of experience, intuition, and identifies the fear of God as that which renders intelligible and cohesive all truth claims as a self-validating truth system. So only transcendental argument can accommodate genuine human existence, experiences, knowledge, logic, reasoning, everything put in a logical realm. And all other arguments easily can divert into a wrong place. So that is a for if you look at the other apologetic method, argues that you can argue your case and convert people into believing God, right? You bring all the arguments and change people's belief into God or the Bible. Whereas transcendental argumentation says, no, depraved man can never come to the conclusion of biblical truth unless God works, right? That faith, God works in the heart of a person, changes him. Now he's able to articulate and come to the conclusion of all the experiences that he has under God's revelation. So that is how this is going to be, the transcendental argument. We will work through this much more because it's a little bit difficult. But finally, as we conclude, you will be able to identify clearly what is transcendental argumentation. All right. So we'll take a break now.